She was 10 years old and she was sick with a fever. It was Halloween. The doctor had given her mother strict orders to see that she stayed in bed. She lay there, listening to the faint laughter coming from downstairs. It made her feel so sad and left out. There was a Halloween party going on downstairs and she was missing all the fun. Her cousins were there and her uncle was the host. He was always the life of the party. She imagined him telling stories and arranging the games. She wished she could be down there too. It had been a long time since anyone visited her. Earlier in the day, her cousins had poked their heads in the door and said it was a shame she was sick and would have to miss the party. That only made her feel worse. She felt like everyone had forgotten about her. She was tired of reading, and there was nothing else to do. It was dark outside, and the lamp was very dim. She just lay there listening and staring at the ceiling. She listened as the old house creaked and groaned. It gave her chills. She wished there was more light in the room. Dark shadows gathered in corners of the room. She wasn't one of those people who believed in ghosts, but still hoped she never saw one. She heard footsteps coming up the stairs. She listened as they came down the hallway and stopped outside her door. Somebody knocked.
Come in.
She called. The door opened and her uncle stepped into the room. He smiled at her and asked her how she was feeling.
Just bored.
She sighed.
What's going on downstairs?
I'm getting ready to put on my costume and scare everyone out of their wits, her uncle said. Her face brightened.
Is it scary?
She asked. Extremely, her uncle replied with a grin.
Can I see it?
She asked eagerly. I don't know, said her uncle. It might scare you too much.
Oh, please.
She begged.
Please, can I see it?
All right, her uncle replied. When I get dressed up, I'll come in and show you before I go back downstairs. You sure you won't be too scared?
Of course I won't.
She laughed. Her uncle left, closing the door behind him, and she lay back down, nervous with anticipation. She listened as his footsteps disappeared down the hallway. She lay there, waiting for some time, wondering what kind of costume her uncle would be wearing. Would it be scary? Would she be frightened? She hoped he wouldn't jump out at her or burst into the room. Everything was eerily quiet. She couldn't hear anything at all from downstairs. The room was very dark. She was sure the lamp was getting dimmer. The shadows in the corners were growing. She closed her eyes for a little while and waited. Her uncle seemed to be taking ages. Where was he? What was taking him so long? Just then, she heard a sound. Her eyes flicked open. It had sounded like a door opening and closing. Her heart began beating quickly. Had he come in? Was he already in the room? She looked at the door. Then her eyes adjusted to the light. she noticed a figure in the shadows. It was standing between the door and the wardrobe. The figure was small, no higher than a table. It was standing there with its back to her, wrapped in a black cloak that almost blended into the shadows. That was why she hadn't seen it at first. A thrill of fear and excitement ran through her body. She gripped the bedcloth with her hands and gave a little gasp. How had he managed to slip in without her noticing? The figure slowly turned to her face. She tried not to show how frightened she was. The face was hideous. It was a dead, pale face with a long, pointed nose. There were no eyes, just small black holes in the mask. It was too good. It looked almost real. She laughed again nervously as the figure emerged from the shadows and moved towards her. She braced herself. She didn't want to scream. She didn't want him to be able to tell everyone downstairs how much he frightened her. She stared at the horrible face as it came closer and closer. It was too scary. She couldn't take it. She flung the bedclothes over her head and tried not to scream. She was about to tell her uncle to stop when she heard something. Someone was knocking at the door. She heard her uncle's voice. "I'm ready," he said. "Can I come in now?"